Hello, I'm Sinta Ebersohn. I'm the founder of Get Up and Grow. And as you know, I'm passionate about trauma, adversity, how we face it, what we do to grow and learn from it, and what we do to overcome it, if it's possible to overcome. And sometimes we need to do things to just learn and live with whatever it is that we're facing and what we have experienced. In a couple of days, we're celebrating International Widows' Day. And to commemorate that, I've invited Renette Vosloo to come and have a conversation with me about what it means to be a widow, to lose your life partner, your spouse, your best friend, the love of your life. Renette, thank you so much for being here, and you're most welcome.
Thank you, Sinta. Thank you for having me. I love the name of your project, Get Up and Grow, or your story, Get Up and Grow. We don't just get up and go, we grow like a little plant. We grow from, the seed has fallen into the ground and we grow. It's lovely. I really do like that. Life is like that. Life is full of stories. For me, everything begins with a story. When a baby is born, that life story starts. Actually, it starts way before that, but I love stories, and for me, life is just a story, and it doesn't start and end at some point, or ends at some point. It continues. It sheds seeds, it sheds leaves, and we continue to grow, and we need to get up and grow. When we fall down, and we will fall down multiple times during our lives. Do you agree with me? So I became a widow about almost 3 years ago, on the 11th of September 2023. It will be a full 3 years cycle, and I will have been a widow for 3 years. Never expected that, never saw that coming. Whoever does. Look, sometimes people grow very old together, and then I presume they foresee that one or the other will go first. But at my age, at 56, I didn't see that one coming. I was totally blindsided. My husband was snatched away by what I now describe as an accident. It was suicide. It was by his own gun. And I had to accept what happened on that day, that he left this earth and it was the end of his life. We had a full 40 years together. Beautiful years. I was 16 years old when I became his girlfriend, and after 4.5 years we got married. We studied together. We had 4 beautiful children. One of our babies didn't make it into the world. He left this world one day before birth. He was stillborn. We went through that together. We faced many adverse times, but we always got up and went on and grew together 40 years long. And the day he left this earth, I was devastated. I really was. I was the one to find him there, and I was knocked down. I didn't know what hit me. You can imagine that. But I am the type of person who I need to make sense of things very quickly. When I lost the baby as well, I was knocked down. I just didn't know what hit me, and I must have slept one whole day through. And when I woke up on the 3rd day, I decided I will have another child very quickly, because when I do something wrong, I need to do it over and get it right and carry on. This is my personality type. So the doctor came in, and on that morning, I decided to just put makeup on and greeted the doctor, and I said, Paul, when can I get pregnant again? Am I fit as a fiddle? Can I do this over? And he said, Renette, I wouldn't advise it. It's your 3rd baby in a very short while. He was born 14 months after my first baby. Sorry, I digress, but it's just as a prequel to how my life was formed.
Yes, not at all. Please.
Why I am properly schooled in getting up and growing and going. So on that 3rd day after Emil, our baby Emil, my husband's name was also Emil, after he had left us prematurely, the doctor said, look, he was born 14 months after our 2nd child. He came very quickly after. He said, I wouldn't advise it, but I will be there for you. And you know what? I had peace. In that moment when the doctor said, it's fine, you can do it. I wouldn't advise it, but I will be there for you if you decide to do it. I had peace. And we didn't have another baby for 3 years. But just because I knew I can do it if I want to, and if I need to. And when Emil died, I also had to find a way to make peace with it, and find a way for myself to say, if I need to find another husband or not find another husband, but I will need to find a way to navigate myself and find a route. I'm a chef, so I create recipes, I follow recipes, but I always find my own way through it and put my own, spin on it. So I navigate life like that. So I found peace within this mess of suicide, of a possible, we're not sure. I have to just put that out there. We're not sure what really happened on that day. We're still waiting for full forensic, reports to come back, but I had to find peace about what happened and why it happened and why am I alone so early in my life. I was 56 years old. I'm turning 59 this year, and now I'm a widow at this point in my life. I'm almost 60. For me to start a new life with another person became a reality about a year ago. I opened up myself and I said, you know what, this empty pillow next to me is hard for me to accept. I'm a sharer. I want to go to bed with someone and share beautiful music or a beautiful book or a beautiful film, and tomorrow morning wake up with someone and look at the sun rising. Or I'm just so much of a sharer. I didn't know whether I would be able to face a life ahead without someone there. And when I opened that up for myself, it was easy for me to open myself up and say, okay, I'm open to it. And when I did that, it also passed. Now I'm in a plane where if there isn't someone else, it's also fine. So this is the way I navigate my life. If I have to, nobody needs to tell me, you have to do it like this or like that. I find my own reality within the sense of, there's this big gap now, but I don't need someone to tell me, oh, you have to do it like this or like that. Just I find my own way through the mess. So for me, I have to find a peace for myself. I went to trauma counseling, and I found that I had to let go also. I had to let my husband go because he left this earth almost willingly. I had to let him go. And when I let him go, it's almost like the same thing when my baby died and this doctor told me it will be fine. It was, I let go of the notion of I have to do it over again. So when I let Emil go, I let something go and I put something in its place. I found peace. There wasn't just this emptiness. I found peace to put in the place of that emptiness, peace of acceptance. So for me, accepting the new reality, the new norm is a big thing to navigate forward and say, this is the way I will just go forward and find the new routes. Emil was a chef we cooked together. We had a restaurant together. And for the first year after he left, I thought I was done with food, which I will never be because it's so much ingrained in my DNA. I've always cooked. I've cooked since I was 10 years old. And recently I found my way back into cooking for people and really enjoying it. But for the first year after he left, I thought I've lost my wing. I can't cook, I can't fly with one wing, and I wouldn't just allow myself to think about going out and cooking for people. So for almost a year, I've lost that wing. And gradually I started drifting back towards food and cooking without him, and life has a way of throwing you back in. It allows you to sort of just drift on the waves for a while, and then it throws you back in. You need to work, you need to get back in on the saddle almost.
Yes.
And I had to start cooking, and I had to start cooking for large groups of people, which I was almost, Emil and I myself decided that we would rather cook for smaller groups of people and do more beautiful things, and sort of as if the universe told me, no, you'll have to work much harder and do much bigger things. And these things started coming, and I had to say, okay, I'll do it. And I found that I can do this all on my own. So you also have to start accepting things and just say, I'll have to do this. You're getting up, your knees shake off the soil and get up, take on what you can, and dive in and do. You still have hands and you still have brains, and you get up, grow from this, and do what you can, and you'll be amazed what you can do on your own. So it was very much, the first part was being knocked down, accepting what happened, letting go, setting free, and then I had to start finding my way back to working, doing what we did together and doing it on my own. And I found the universe helped me with that part. It threw me right back into where I never thought I could go, but I was thrown with stuff and I couldn't say no. I had to accept and start doing. So you'll have to push yourself and go in, rush in, take on and do. That was one very big part of the past 3 years of my life. And then came the big fire. Last year, November, it's about 7 months ago now, my house burned down. From also, we didn't see it coming. It was a perfect Friday afternoon with no wind, a swimming weather day. And we had a barbecue going, and all of a sudden a wind came and it blew the coals right onto the couch on the veranda, and it took to the thatch roof, and everything went. So I went. It was like I went with my husband's death. I went over coals, and here was a fire, and I was burnt to the ground through the ashes. I had to go, sure. And I sat back, and I had to make sense of it all again. I had to navigate. Why? What is happening? And if you just keep an open mind and go in and go through it, like you have to swim through the ocean to get to the point of peace with what's happening. Because if you're going to push back, you're not going to get to that point of peace. And I think what happened through my life with losing, we also lost a few businesses through our life, and we had to battle. Life for me was not easy over the last 40 years. It's never been just easy. I don't think anybody's life is just easy, but it prepares you to find that the navigation process of getting to the point of peace where you can get the recipe right for getting up and growing. Because I've grown immensely in the last 3 years with the fire as well. I found out that fire burns clean, and it prepared me to travel light. Because I'm traveling and I want to speak to people. I want to share what happened, and that it can be good. My husband is free. He was set free. He wasn't happy anymore in this life. I know that. He was a happy person, but in the end, through COVID and the whole struggle and everything that happened, closing of restaurants, he was not happy anymore. And I came to a point where I realized that. And I'm a resilient kind of person, and I'm much younger. I'm 4 years younger than he was. So I have a lot of resilience still, and I think I can reach people. I have a lot of work still to do, and I accept that. I accept it. And maybe I wasn't at that point yet until the fire had to come. And if you're not going to get there on your own, a fire will come and burn you clean until you accept, where you need to be. It will throw you down until you get up and grow. It's amazing, Sinta, that if you don't get to that point, life will bring you there, where you will have to get up and keep on going. So at this point of my life, I'm a widow. I'm still young. I'm almost 60, and I look very young. People always tell me, you don't look 60, but I am.
Almost.
I'm almost 60. Round it off to the nearest, I'm 60. So there's not a lot of years ahead, good years. I must grab them and go. So I need to still make something of the next 10 years. And I want to. I really want to get out there. And maybe it's not just cooking. It's also traveling and getting out there and speaking to people and telling them, listen, we all have stories. Make something of that story. You don't have to write a book. It's not just a book. It's living that story. And even if it's just imparting something to your child or your grandchild, or the next person next to you, someone in line, in the checkers line, that you can tell something, and that person takes something away there in that moment. You've done it well. Be positive, stay positive. Times are tough. It's not, this place is not, it's not an easy place. This planet of ours, it's not an easy place. So being a widow, yes, this is in a nutshell where I am, where I've come from. I've been knocked down hard in the last 3 years, very hard. Through my life, I've been down. I have been, but I've always managed to just, get up and go. But your get up and grow is such a beautiful, I must take this for myself. I really want to.
I do love what you said in the beginning. We don't just get up and go, which is a brilliant phrase as well. We don't just get up and grow. We actually lie around and grovel a bit and lick our wounds and everything, but eventually we do get up and grow. And once we started doing that, we get going again. So thank you so much for sharing your story. It's a huge story of loss and disappointments on so many levels and so many aspects of your life. It's actually much more than just being a widow, just losing your husband. So I wanted to thank you and honor you for sharing all of that with us, and the tremendous road that you've traveled ever since, Renette. It's unbelievable. You mentioned the word resilience. It seems like you have a level of tenacity and you just keep on going. And I'd love for you to tell us a bit more about those. You mentioned how sometimes life will give you that little push or shove that we need to get up again, or to get started with something when we're not sure which way to go. Or how do you deal with that interim period? Because surely there's a time where you are in grief, where you are in mourning, where you are, like you said, absolutely devastated and literally in a state of shock because of what happened. And we are all quite strong about figuring it out in our minds, but somehow we need to get the body through it also.
Yes. You know what? I allowed myself to stay down for a while. If I wanted to just close the doors and the curtains for a week, I would. I just allowed myself that. I took time. After Emil's death, I took about 4 months, really, of just, my kids also said, Mom, you don't have to worry about a thing for at least 4 months. Just stay, just be calm, just mourn, cry if you want to, go and sit by the sea, take the car, drive, or just lie in your bed if you want to. Nobody's going to judge you for that. And I did. If I just wanted to just not open the curtains and just stay down for a day, I did that. I allowed myself time. You have to just allow yourself to be broken a bit. Yes. It's not wrong to be broken. I was broken. Yes, you have to be broken. You have to allow yourself to break, because you're not superhuman. No one is. And when life gives you that little push, and it's a big one, and you fall down and you break into a million little pieces. Did you read that book, A Million Little Pieces? It was a life-changing book for me. I remember that book, and I felt like a million little pieces. And even our pet, the Yorkshire Terrier, she was broken, and we needed to see that and have her treated for trauma and missing my husband and losing him. So you have to go through that. You have to allow yourself to break, and then get up slowly. Nobody can just miraculously get up like this. If it takes you a year, it does. There's no time. There's no recipe really for it. So I allowed myself to mourn and to cry and to get angry and go through all the stages. I did. You don't believe it. You don't. Someone told me, oh, you'll get married again. And I read somewhere, if you have a good marriage and you lose your partner, you will get married again because you had a good marriage. And I thought, oh, that's crap. That's nonsense, because it was so good and I had 40 good years. Not that we were married for 40 years, but we had 40 years together. I was 16 and he left when I was 56. I thought, no, I had 40 good years. How can I redo that? It's impossible. And then as I started missing him so much, I miss that. And I want to try and have that again. I really do. And I would. I'm open for it, but I'm not going to force it and look for it. It's just, you don't believe what you hear from people, and this is what's so wonderful about sharing. If people tell you how they felt when they went through it. You don't have to believe them, but you can hear it, and then somewhere along the way you remember, oh, my friend also said this, and this is how I feel now. And I didn't feel like that in the beginning. So you must allow yourself to go through all these stages, and I must say I did. I allowed myself just to cry and be broken for a while, and COVID helped a lot, because when I didn't want to see anybody, I would fake and say, no, I was in contact, so I have to isolate for 2 weeks, leave me alone. So I did.
Oh, that's a benefit of the COVID period. That's a good one that I haven't thought of. Yeah, that was also a very difficult time that everybody went through all over the world, that had a huge impact on our lives.
So you have to make use of all the tools that there is. Well, that was one of mine. I said, no, I can't go out, because when I wanted to isolate, I isolated myself, even if I had to make a little white lie of it. But yes, you have to. This is in phase 1. I allowed myself to feel broken and go through every little pain that came up. I was angry with him and with God and with the world. You have to allow yourself. Nobody is bigger than that. You're not.
Yeah. Renette, I want to ask you, if you are at liberty to elaborate on it, did you lose your husband, if I'm understanding correctly, in the COVID period where we were all under lockdown?
Yes.
What was the impact? Because you mentioned you have 4 children, and I assume they're all adults, and maybe, and I know you've got grandchildren. What was the impact on all of you being in lockdown in terms of going through the mourning process? I remember that I lost several people, loved ones, during the COVID period. And my own experience was very frustrating and sad at the same time, because of the loss of physical presence and contact. We weren't able to be close together and hold each other and just support each other. How was that for you?
Exactly. That was the first thing I wanted to say. Thinking back, Emil died on the 11th of September 2020. So that was 8 months in. After they closed restaurants down, they opened us up again. They said you can start trading again and you could start selling wine again. But still we were locked down in terms of how many people could get together and traveling and whatever. So when we had to, have a memorial for him, or just to get together, a remembrance, day for him, we couldn't have a lot of people together. We could have 20 together. Sure. So he was such a larger than life person. For us, we would have wanted to give him such a send off. He was such well-loved person. He was the life of every party. You know, he didn't have one enemy on this earth. I promise you, he was just such a natural, authentic person. He was a Sagittarian. So he lived for quite a hedonistic life. He lived for just the love of life. And we would have really wanted to give him such a send-off with all his friends present, and we couldn't do that. So for that alone, it was hard on for that, and not even all the children could be together. My son's daughter couldn't fly down here. They have 4 children. I have 3 remaining children. We always count little Emil, who didn't make it into this world, but he was full term. We had to, you know, register him and bury him. So I had 4 children. My kids always said, "Mommy, there's 4 of us." So I have 4 children, but only 3 remaining. I have 6 grandchildren, and they we also lost my daughter, who's married to Francois, the winemaker. His father died 9 months after Emil of cancer. So we lost 2 granddads within 9 months of each other. And Iva May always says, "I've got 2 grandmoms, but I don't have granddads. They live in the clouds." So it was a hard thing for everyone in that period of time. Now, because of the physical, like you say, we couldn't really comfort each other physically and give that send off that we would have wanted to. That made it extra hard. The whole thing, the whole suicide thing, and to deal with it physically and just, yeah, to do what we would have liked to do, we couldn't. The COVID thing, and he was really a case of COVID, because had it been, if it is suicide as per se, it was because he was down because of losing our restaurant and having to start up again with losing everything. We had to survive for 8 months on our last resources, and then they opened up, and Emil was like, also, with what are we going to start over now? He was really knocked down. It was a hard time. You would know, Sinta, that during COVID, suicide went up like crazy. The suicide numbers, yeah.
Unfortunately, the practicalities of COVID put so many people in utterly desperate situations, and yeah, it had a tremendous impact on our families and our societies and our countries all over the world. It was a dreadful time, really was.
It was.
You mentioned earlier, if I can just divert a little bit, you mentioned earlier you don't have to write a book, but you actually have written a book.
Yes,
it's not about this topic, but tell us about that, and when did that happen?
Yes, I wrote a narrative cookbook, Die Rooi Tomatie Story, which is basically our life story intertwined with recipes. How Emil and I started cooking when I was 10 because I found so much interest in food, and my mom bought this cookbook with pictures in it, and I couldn't get my nose out of that book. And I stole away on the bus, and I bought a duck in town, and I brought that duck home, and I cooked a dinner for my mom's birthday. And from there on, you know, my life with food, and I got this boyfriend who was also so interested in food, and we didn't buy our books that was needed for class. We bought recipe books on the tab, which was meant for our books that we were, what your handbook, textbook. So Emil and I was very, very into food since we met. And eventually we ended up having restaurants together and cooking together as chefs, self-made chefs. So this book was very much narrative. Every chapter was about a time of our life where we would have a restaurant somewhere and what the style of food would then be. And so it's a narrative cookbook called Die Rooi Tomatie Story, and Emil was very much part of it. I wrote the book. It was published in 2017 when he was still alive. And so if I'm granted the time, I would do another one, but not fully like this. I would rather do something like Water for Chocolate, more romantic, more kind of a book, like, yes, with a story about the life with food and how where life could take you, because you never know where you will be knocked down again and getting up again, because you will. There's
Yeah,
no end to it.
we
There's
don't
one thing
know.
I can tell you. You can never think, oh, I've had my share. From now on, it can just go better. Don't ever think that. And just keep a positive mind about yourself, because the more you get knocked down and getting up, the better your muscles will become. That's the only thing you must know about it.
Yeah, we have to at least get better at it, if that's the only thing. Hey, but your book was a wonderful project, and also I'm thinking now, considering where you are now, a wonderful tribute to the 40 years, or just short of 40 years, that you had together before your husband left this world, as you said. And it's a great read. I will put a link down where we post this video for people to go and have a look at your book and possibly get it if they're interested.
Thank you.
So back to the topic. It's such an inspiring story to sit here and listen to a woman, a mother, a life partner, a spouse, who shares a journey that spans over decades. I mean, you said you met your husband when you were 16. It's an incredible journey to think that you spent so many years together. Can you tell us more about the loss of that person who's been your closest companion, or your best friend, your confidant, your partner in everything you've been? You mentioned all the things that you've been through together.
That remains the hardest. It will remain with me. You don't get over that. There's no getting over that. I speak to him every day of my life. I do speak to him every day of my life. If I like to write, I do Facebook. I'm a Facebook writer.
I know, I read them and I very much enjoy them. And they're very inspiring, I must say.
I sometimes think people think I look for sympathy or something, but it's not that. I do speak to him every day of my life, and it will stay like that. Even if I get another partner, he would have to accept that Emile will remain part of my fiber forever, because I believe we were connected. We've been connected for years, thousands of years, and he is part of my fiber through my children, born through us and our connection. But he's so much part of me. Every song I listen to, be it something that he knew with me, and be it something that's new that I've now only started listening to, he would be in it for me, and I would speak to him about it. New recipes that I find, or new recipes that I create, is with him. So you lose him, but he stays with you. I cannot explain it better than that. There's no getting over it. It will never pass. It will never go away. I've met a lady the other night in a bar, and we sat next to each other, and she's now 10 years in. I'm 3 years in, and she echoed this. She said, it will never be over. It will never go away. 40 years will become 60. He's going to be there forever, and that is it. I lost him. I was angry. I do sometimes still get angry at him. And then I would say, why must I be here alone now? Why am I in this situation? And then I fight with him, I speak to him. So I lost him, and it was dreadfully hard. Look, when I found him there, I found him. And I wanted to just comfort him and say, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Why did it happen? I'm so sorry. He looked so small to me when he was lying there, all still in the grass and long gone. I didn't know until, the doggy came and she licked me and she said, no, you must come. He said, no. So my first reaction was, oh no, this shouldn't have happened to you. And I want to comfort you, and I want to get, ek wou hom getroos het. Ek wou net, and there was nothing I could do. It was like the same thing when they told me the baby wasn't alive anymore, and the finality of it. That's the first push. That's the first punch that hit me, and that loss, that finality. It's I can't describe it. And then comes the reality of it. Okay, they come and take you away. And this is now you have to accept this. This is real. This is real. It's not a movie. It's not a dream. It's real. So you go through that, and then it's a loss. He's gone. You can't phone him after 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Say, please come back. It's okay. It wasn't just a fight. And 40 years. There's been many of those. There's no phoning to say, okay, come back. It's fine. I'm not angry anymore. The loss is real. Just coming back, there's no getting over it. He will stay with me forever in my heart. All those cliches, it's always there. But the loss, it's very, very hard. He was my best friend. He was my buddy. We went to Opikopi together. We were so close that it was kind of scary. If I would see a nice looking guy, I would even tell him. and he would do the same with me. We were very, very close. We were like almost brother and sister like in the end, but still lovers, still husband and wife. We were a unique couple, and I lost that. I don't think I will ever be in that position again. It will never be the same, but he will be forever with me, and I will keep that alive. I know I will. I want to, because then if I don't do that, then he will be lost, and I don't want to lose him really. He's not physically with me, but he is with me in my fiber.
I love what you said. You're losing.
I hope I answered you.
Yes, of course. That's beautiful. You're losing, but he's with you, and he'll always be with you. And I love how you validate the beautiful relationship that you had, and it will continue, although it's in a different way, in a different context.
I can't say it in other words better than he's part of my fiber. We became one. We really became one through our children, through our physical oneness. So the death took him away physically, but he's still part of my fiber. So for me, he's always alive.
I love that. He's part of your fiber. And that's what we become for each other when there's love and such a long, strong, deep connection.
I'm probably blessed that I really am blessed that I had him for 40 years and I met him. I always said I met the right guy at the wrong time. 16, really? But no, it worked. It worked for us.
Yeah. It did, eh? Renette, thank you so much again for sharing all of this. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure everybody who's going to watch this video will find a lot of inspiration in here. Can you tell us a bit about how this event of your husband's passing impacted your family?
Yes.
How does something like this impact a family?
Well, in a lot of ways, everyone deals with it in their own way.
Yes.
3 children. My oldest is a boy, a son. He's a father of 4 children, and he lives away, far away. So it was a long period that he didn't see his father. So when he got the news, he didn't have time, and he was devastated, and he had to go deal with it. I didn't see my father for a long time. I think he had a lot of regret, not having made more time, more effort to spend more time because of the distance and COVID. And I think there's a lot of regret there. And then the kids, this side, both our daughters we were much closer and much more together. Maya had just had a baby. Her baby was 3 months old when Emil passed. And COVID kept us apart. We didn't spend as much time together as we would have liked, and we couldn't support her as we would have liked with the new baby. And then our youngest was a daddy's girl. She was his nest kaikentjie. And she had to also deal with losing daddy, a daddy who always came to fix things in her flat. She moved around a lot because she always had too many pets, and she was always caught out, and she had to move again. And then daddy would come and put all the paintings up again, and she had to. So it impacts each one in a very different way, and they each had a very different relationship with him because he was so very unique.
Yes.
just for us personally, he was a very unique person, and he had a very unique relationship with each of them, and they had to deal with it very differently. They were not hugging close, coming in close and dealt with it as a threesome. They each dealt with it in their own way. The girls maybe came together and dealt with it as two sisters would, but also each in their own capacity. The older daughter, the youngest, and then my son being the boy and being away from his father. So no, it was devastating. And the way it went, the way it happened, no, it couldn't have been more devastating. And the COVID time made it super, super hard for everyone. Still is. We're still battling with issues and the trauma of it. It's not an easy thing. I think it will remain a hard thing to speak about, to talk about, and to deal with. On a day like today, or like Father's Day, well, every day is difficult, but on Father's Day, they would send to each other songs about him that they would now. It remains very hard for each one in their own way.
I was going to ask about Father's Day because today, as we're recording, this happens to be Father's Day. Those are the extra challenging times.
His birthday, Father's Day, even Mother's Day would be hard because he would always also be part of Mother's Day, and they would, plan something together for me, and he's not there now. No, it's hard. Every special day is coming up. It's always hard for them, and each in their own way. They had their own different relationship with him, and now the impact is terrible. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing.
It has a huge impact, and we all have a different way of dealing with grief and bereavement. And you also mentioned earlier, there's no timeline for something. There's no deadline for grief to stop or mourning. We all have our own time and our own pace and our own way of doing it. So
yes,
I think
in this day and age, we all know, and we're all very informed, and we all know about the phases, but it's not to say this phase will follow this phase. They don't hit you in a certain, sometimes you first get the anger and then the grief, the heart sore and the pain. There's no recipe. I'm a food person. I think in recipes. It doesn't follow in a certain, sometimes it first hits you in the, there's no, like you say, timeline, but there's phases and they don't follow each other in a certain way. It just comes and hits you like a wave, and it rolls you, and then you've been flushed out there, and then you crawl your way back, and then you get up and you go again, and the next one comes. It's not easy. It really isn't. I couldn't sit here today and say, oh, I'm a merry widow and I'm going on, because there's no button to push to say I'm done and I'm checking out. I've said that many times to people. They ask you, how do you carry on? And then I would jokingly say, well, there's no button to push. I can't just stop. I have to live, which is true. But it's not just easy to keep up a brave face and carry on. But you have to physically, work on it and keep a brave face and work on that brave face. It's not easy. But
it's very hard. It's very hard.
You have to put in the work. For each other. I have to, if I would just lie down and give up, I don't know how you do that, but if I would, it would impact my children. What would they do? What would they do with me?
That's a very valid question. We keep going also for the people around us, and sometimes they are our saving grace on the days that are really bad. Those are reasons for us to get up and do something or keep going. Renette, I have a question. How would you respond with having had all this experience that you've shared with us so beautifully to somebody who says, or it's actually a phrase that we hear so often, time heals? How do you agree with that?
Not really. Time makes it a little bit easier to to put into words what is happening or what happened, and it makes it easier to carry on with life as it is. So in the beginning it was harder, and makes it easier, but it doesn't heal it. The wound will always be there, and it does make a roofie, what is it, a scab. And I think it maybe heal in some way, but it's always there. So time, well, look, I'm 3 years in. Maybe in 3 years more, I might speak differently and say something else. But at where I stand, and having met the other lady the other night, after 10 years, she says it never goes away. I at this point in my life, I don't fully agree with time heals. Time makes it better, but it wouldn't heal it because he's gone. And I wouldn't have liked for him to be gone. I would have liked for very much for him to still be here with me. I'm young enough to live a full life ahead. And he was still also, he was such a lovely person. I would really make a fire with him still every night and just dance around that fire as much as I can. So to think I would heal fully, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. If he could be here, I would heal. No, if time could bring him back, yes, but time couldn't bring him back. So no, I don't fully agree with it.
Unfortunately not, eh? And it makes sense what you're saying. There's a wound or a scar that remains from where the wound was. I always, because I work with trauma, I always like to share this image that I have of the things that happen to us, or the burdens that we carry on our backs are heavy. And with time, they don't get lighter. I think we just get better at carrying them.
Yes, that I could fully agree with. You will learn to live with that and shift it around a bit, but it's going to be there. Yes. I think a person who loses a limb, that where it was cut off, that will heal, but that limb is off. You will learn to live without that limb, but it's off. It can't come back. If it's back, it would be healed, but no. Unfortunately, I couldn't say to people, time heals. No. Every single lovely animal that I've had, and I've had beautiful larger dogs, they don't live that long. I miss each and every one of them as they died, and over the years they're gone. Nothing can bring them back. So no, being a widow with death that took away my beautiful life partner, I don't think I can ever heal from that. No, I'm a widow now. I'm a something. I was a wife, now I'm a widow. So
it's sad to hear you say that, but it's also beautiful in a way. I was a wife and now I'm a widow, and you're still a wife also.
Yes,
it's absolutely beautiful. I'm so grateful for you sharing this with me and everybody who's going to be watching this. Renette, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. I have to ask you, what golden nuggets of advice can you give any other woman out there who has just lost her husband, who's just lost her best friend, her partner? What if you could be the first person to be there, what would you say to her?
Talk about him. Don't think you couldn't speak about him. Keep on. I keep apologizing still for talking so much about him. Talk about him. Open your heart, let him flow out from there, and keep him around you, keep him with you. There's no shame in that. No, don't let anybody tell you, no, move on and let the past. I'm being told that often. No, I mustn't live in the past. No, keep talking about him. Keep him alive if you want to. If that's what you want to do, keep him alive. For me, that is how I find sense in life. That he's there, he was very much with me, part of my life. He formed me in a way from being 16 to where I am. Look, just when he left, I felt that I had to go back to where I was 16. I wrote a poem about die ou gaans moes uitvaar tot waar sy 16 was. And I needed to go back and dance again like when I was 16. I had to go through that. I did. So do what you need to do, go through everything. But if you feel like you need to keep him alive, in a sense, do that. Don't let anybody tell you you mustn't speak about him so much. No, I do whatever you feel right for you. But if you need to talk about him, talk about him. That's what I did, and that's what I do. I need to keep him alive for myself and for my kids. I think they love it when I talk about him. So my little nugget is, talk about him if you want to. It's not for everybody. If that's what you want to do, don't let anybody tell you you mustn't. Does it
That is
help?
beautiful. And of course, I love that, because the people that leave this world are an integral part of our lives. They don't stop being a part of us. They don't suddenly get erased from our history. So they are there. They are still real,
Absolutely.
even though we can't see them and touch them. Absolutely beautiful. Renette, thank you so much. Once again, much appreciation for sharing your story, and admiration. I want to commend you for getting up and growing so many times. What a tale of loss. It's incredible. You've been through so much, and yet here you are, and you are energetic, and you are light, and you still get excited about the future. It's an absolute inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sinta. It's lovely sharing. I believe sharing is the way. If people don't speak, it's in a way what I said, talk about him, talk about what happened. Sharing is sharing is caring. Sharing is helping other people. If you can help one person, there was sense in it.
Definitely.
Lovely speaking to you. Thank you for inviting me.